Hey everybody, I'm Luis with The Conversation, and in lieu of today having my colleague Abby here, I am joined by my editor, Matthew T. Hall, who is the Opinion and Ideas Director of Opinion and Ideas.
Many titles, Editorial and Opinion Director, that's one of them too.
So he is by far the most visible face and name that is associated with the editorial board, the people who write the editorials here for the San Diego Union-Tribune. And obviously we are in the midst of a really big story, national story I guess I would say.
International maybe.
Maybe international, yeah. Out of San Diego, where a congressman, Duncan has been indicted on a number of charges, right?
60 I believe,
yeah. So you guys wrote about that, and you made a pretty bold statement.
Yeah. To
resign. You're calling on him to resign.
It's pretty rare that we call on a politician to resign. I was just trying before I came on to talk to you to look back at how often we've done that. I've been on the board for 3 years, directing it, and we've only ever done it one other time. About a month ago, we called on National City Councilman Jerry Cano to resign for some of his untoward behavior down there, involving harassing a woman council colleague. And before that, we did it at least once under my predecessor, Bill Osborne, with Mayor Bob Filner, who famously had a sexual harassment scandal of his own. But this was an interesting decision about Hunter, because there's this thing called due process. One, where people are innocent until proven guilty. And also, two, this indictment came down pretty late in the day when our page had actually mostly been done. And so we ripped up the page. That's an expression, not literally. And wrote a new editorial, and ultimately discussing it with the board in a very kind of, tight turnaround, decided that, we should call on him to resign, because that indictment is so thorough, it's so damning, and we said it would be the honorable thing to do, because he's a congressman who made his name in the military. Right. First of his kind congressman to be sworn in after serving 2 tours of duty in Iran and Afghanistan. Yeah. Military means a lot in East County to people, and some of the particular language in there, where he told the Navy to F itself, and talked about buying Hawaiian shorts and billing it as buying golf balls for wounded warriors, just was beyond the pale to me personally. So. Yeah, well, I'm going to ask you about some of those things, and then for those who are not familiar with this part of San Diego, the district where he represents, we'll definitely get a little bit of that. Again, just a reminder, we're on Facebook Live. You can throw in your comments or questions, and we will read them, or at least I will read them. And if you have any good questions for Matt, chime in. Let us know what you have. Obviously, this is, like you said, something that came out of, I think, out of the blue, kind of surprised all of us. We were in the newsroom, sort of kind of wrapping up the day's paper, and then this drops. What were some of the things that struck you the most that in the indictment? Because this is a what is it, a 48 page indictment, with a number of allegations that federal prosecutors are alleging. What were some of the things that struck you out the most, stood out? Well, the two that I mentioned, it takes a lot to get me riled up. I got a pretty thick skin, honestly, and I get death threats. So. That's an interesting combination right there. But again, given his military background and the region that he represents, the line about the Navy and the stuff about wounded warriors, I wouldn't say I was shaking, but I was as close to that as I could get without my body moving. I was incensed. I mean, I think I joked to someone that in a day and age when fake outrage grows on trees, this is an actual outrage.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I mean, I think some
Yeah.
people don't. It's interesting. We had Jim Desmond, who's a Republican running for county supervisor, in the next day, and I asked him about it. What do you think? And he said, you know, people say stuff, and that was kind of basically his answer. Yeah, people say stuff,
Yeah.
but there's some context to it.
Yeah, and apparently that came out of apparently an exchange in emails that was certain.
Yeah, and the context of that story is that, so, and this allegedly, but again, a pretty thorough indictment. The story is that they went on a family vacation to Italy, spent almost $15,000 on it, and that he, after, went to the Navy and asked them to set up a meeting to kind of justify the expense and the use of campaign dollars. And the Navy told him, no, good on you, Navy. And that's when he told his chief of staff to fire that off in an email.
Yeah. Just so for those who are not familiar, maybe who are watching from outside San Diego or Southern California region, what is the 50th district look like? Where is that geographically, and what kind of demographics are we talking
East
about?
San Diego County, so it includes El Cajon. One of Hunter's challengers in the primary was the mayor of El Cajon, a Republican. Hunter is based in Alpine, so it stretches there. So it's a swath of East County. East County, I used to cover East County. I used to cover El Cajon and La Mesa and parts east. It sometimes gets a rap as being way far out there. It's about 10 minutes away from San Diego, so it's super close.
It's a little bit like rural,
Parts of it are.
Yeah, like
parts
mountain
of it are.
area.
Yeah. I mean, it's a beautiful part of the county. And like I said, heavy military presence. It's a big kind of Christian conservative presence. A lot of churches out there, a lot of folks who are kind of, salt of the earth people. And the interesting thing is that after this indictment, you can read some of the reporting that our newsroom has done going and talking to people. Many people still stand by him, given that due process is a constitutional right that everyone has. And they have stood by him for years, and his father before him, who was in Congress for 25 years.
Yeah, and I don't know if you got to see some of the video that came out of the courthouse earlier today, where he and his wife showed up, and there was just a crowd of people, mostly critics, calling him, lock him up. I think that was the phrase that they use. And he and his wife pleaded not guilty. They were let off on bond. But obviously, like you said, he's got to go through the due process and all that stuff. What do you think is going to be the outlook for the election? Do you think this is going to play out? Is it going to play out against his favor or in favor?
That's a good question. If I was a betting person, and I try not to because I'm not a very good bettor, I would say that he wins, which is an indictment in and of itself. Look, we as an editorial board, we had his opponent, Amar Campanajjar, come in and talk to us. He's a young, bright guy with ties to the Obama administration. But in East County, I don't want to paint with a broad brush, his name cuts against him to a certain extent. His background won't be welcomed by everyone, but I think you're going to see some Democrats nationally and in his district seize on this as an opportunity. Like they kind of smell blood in the water. So I think it might be close, but if I was going to guess at this point, I'd say Hunter kind of skates through with a narrow victory. Do
you think voters will just simply ignore this and say, the charges are, fake or, just
fake news?
Fake news.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people will say that this is innocent until proven guilty, so you're going to hear that line a lot. I do think you see some of the reporting where some Republicans are moving to, I don't know what to do, or maybe supporting. Are they going to? But will they vote for Amar? Maybe it's on him. If he runs a good campaign and gets a lot of support, it wouldn't be unheard of for him to win. I think it was some people who are in this game in the game of making predictions have said that this district is heavily favored to be Republican to slightly favored to be to stay Republican. So I think that's kind of the ground game that we're looking at.
Yeah. Speaking of which, so we're still, what, 2-3 months away from November?
November 6th is the election, yeah.
Right now, the editorial board is going through a long line of people coming in for interviews,
yeah.
You know, where you guys get to interview them and decide, you know, who is going to get an endorsement, or just to kind of get a sense of like, well, who they are. By the way, we also have those interviews. We're going to have those interviews fully transcribed and audio on our website pretty soon, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
But speaking of which, have you guys invited Duncan Hunter?
Good question. Thank you. We did invite Duncan Hunter. They turned down our invitation to come in and to run the interview in full, transcript and audio on our website. I will say he was the only candidate to turn us down, in my history on the board, and I think one of the very few to do that in years at the Union-Tribune. One other candidate we have yet to schedule an interview with. Since this interview isn't about that, I won't mention any names. John Cox, call your campaign, schedule an interview, and come in. That'd be awesome. And I don't know if the congressman didn't want to come in, because in the primary, we did make an endorsement in that race, and we very unusually endorsed anyone but Hunter.
Right.
We basically said Hunter's baggage is too much for this district. He shouldn't be representing Congress, and whoever the voters choose to run against him, we would endorse. I actually got a call, I think, the day that interview ran, or very shortly thereafter, from Amar asking, well, so when do I get the endorsement? And I said, well, there's a process. We're going to bring you and the congressman in. Or now it just turns out we'll just have Amar in. And as I said, we did bring him in. And so at a certain point, we haven't sat down and started these discussions for many of our endorsements. But that's a discussion that we'll have. And you know, I think people can read between the lines and see what we'll do, given the fact that we said anyone but Hunter in the primary, and I have now called on Hunter to resign.
Did he give a reason? Did he say just...
No, I pressed him on it. They just said he doesn't... I shouldn't say, without remembering it specifically, the email said... that the congressman prefers not to, or doesn't want to. And when I asked why, they did not explain.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it could be that he just doesn't want to answer questions. Well, you know, and that's fair. I think, you know, it's...
Look, it's his decision.
It's his decision.
Again,
you know?
It is surprising, given how unusual it is, and given that the interview in full would be on our website, and the audio would be as well, and the fact that he's, you know, he stood in front of reporters, to his credit, for 15 minutes yesterday.
Yeah.
And answered a bunch of questions. So
yeah, and we shared a thread on our Twitter handle at SUT Ideas. All the editorials that you guys wrote, you know, over
There's been a last handful, half dozen or so.
Last, I think two plus years, something like that. From all the reporting that's been coming out from our team, our newsroom team here, it seemed like it was like something like was amiss, like something was wrong, you know, something was not adding up, and then suddenly this lands and boom, you know, here we are.
Yeah, I mean, look, credit where credit's due. Morgan Cook's reporting has been outstanding. A lot of other journalists have been covering this as well, you know, and there's been kind of bits and pieces, you know, but the indictment in its totality was kind of jaw-dropping.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm sure this is a story that's going to keep going. You know, we're definitely going to keep an eye out, you know, how this is going to play out for the November election. You know, he still has to go through, he has to go to trial.
Here.
Yeah. And we're definitely going to be following up on that. And hopefully you can join us again next time and see what happens then. You know, maybe there will be another editorial. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Thanks again, Matt, for joining us. And again, thank you all for joining us on Facebook Live.